Yeah,
Let's
we're
go.
gonna we're gonna go. Okay, here we are.
I'd rather make it now while I'm awake.
Okay, well, it's fascinating because this Gemara just is so appropriate for Shavuos. But let's just quickly. We're starting from the Mishnah Daf Lamed Dalet Amud
Are
Sheni.
you able to make yourself a little louder? I have my
Yes.
volume up
Yeah.
all the way, and I still
Let,
can't hear you
yeah.
too well.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I hear him
Now
fine. Something must be going on your
here,
side.
here. Do you hear me now better?
Better,
Yes.
better.
Okay. So we're starting from Lamed Dalet Amud Sheni. Here, first of all, just to know, this is the Beis Hamikdash, and over here, right over here would be the lishka where the mikveh was. We're going to take just a quick look at it because it's called Beis Parva. Right over here is another view of it. You see the hold on. Oh, sorry. Just got messed up a little bit. Okay. Here it is. Lishkas Beis HaParva. Right over here on top, he would go up there to the mikvah. That's a very important part of this Mishnah. That's all.
I thought the mikveh was out in the open and they had to put sheets around it. That's showing it's closed.
That's a good point. What this picture is a loose translation, I would say, because you're right. It would they put they put the sheets. So
okay,
yeah. So
all right, that's different than the other picture you showed.
Exactly. So this might not be correct. It's just an architectural
assumption
that it would. From the Mishnah, it seems to say that they had a sheet all around.
All around, right.
Right. That's what it seems to imply.
Also, one more thing from yesterday's Gemara, which we obviously didn't do. There was a thing about it being a triangle, and the mizbeach was out a little more instead of being on line. Do you have a picture of that so I could see what that is?
Yeah, sure.
Because without the pictures, I gotta tell you, it's very hard.
Here, just one quick look. What do you approach? Here's
all right. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, much better. Okay.
Now here we go. Okay, Heviu leBeis Parva. They brought him to the Beis Parva, which is that place over there. Over Kodesh was in the Beis Hamikdash proper. Parsu Sedin Shel Butz Beinoil Beino You see, they placed a sheet around between him and the people. So I don't know. Kiddush Yodov Varaglov. He was Mekadesh his hands. Okay, he did the washing with the Kiddush Yadav Raglo, Upashat, and then he took off the big day Zahav, okay, the gold clothing. So here it says while he was wearing the gold clothing, you did Kiddush Yadayim Varaglayim, and then you took it off. Rabbi Meir says no, Pashat. You first took off your clothing, and then Kiddush Yadav Raglo. So he was basically standing in naked. And then he did Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim. So what Steve pointed out then is how could you make the bracha on Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim standing naked without clothing? You're in the Beis Hamikdash. So I want to point out to you what I saw on over here on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Sheni on the bottom of the page. There's a Tosfos Yishonim, and here he says here Avram Meir. So Ella he says over here. I'm going to just be very quick. Ella he says. Right over here, he did cover himself with something. In other words, according to a mayor, it's not like it's very not
it's like a towel.
Like a towel. He just wasn't wearing the clothing. El Avar a mayor tzorach hu la soy. He has to do it. Bazar elashi chasa atzmai bedover. That's what he says. You cover yourself with something. So
okay.
That solves a major question. That's all. I wonder if everybody saw that. Okay, so now the Mishnah continues. Let's go back to our Mishnah very quickly. Okay, now he's putting on the white clothing, right? Okay, now Yorad, he went to the mikvah, V'tovel, and then he goes out of the mikvah. Yori went down to the mikvah, Tovel, Metvila, Allah, he went up from the mikvah, V'nistapog, and he had to dry himself so that there's no water on his body when he puts on the clothing, because it could be a chatzitza, I don't know. Evi'aloi, big day love, and they brought him the white clothing. Lavash, he put it on, V'kiddush yod v'raglav. And then he did another kiddush yadayim v'raglayim. So he did another kiddush yadayim v'raglayim after he put it on. Now, there are two times that he wears the big day lavan. once in the morning, once in the afternoon. So the Mishnah tells you that they were not the same white clothing. In fact, the more expensive one, this was linen clothing made from the finest linen in the world. But the more expensive one had to be worn in the morning service of Yom Kippur. The Shachar, in the morning of Yom Kippur, Hayolovish Pelusin, he wore, let's call Pelusin, they call it like Egyptian linen, but the most finest linen, as far as I know today, is Belgian linen. And Shem Shneim Asamana, it was worth 12 mana. Bein Abayim, Hanidonim, Shel Shmeina Me'ezuz. In the afternoon, basically it was 800 zuz or 8 mana. Each mana is 100 zuz. So in the morning it was worth 12, and in the afternoon the value of his clothing was worth 8. Divrei Reb Meir. So says Reb Meir. Chacham says, so the total was 20 according to Reb Meir. In the morning he wore the clothing was worth 18 mana. That means, 18 mana. In the afternoon, shel shneim aser mana. He wore 12. In the afternoon, it was worth only 12 mana. Hakoil, if you total them both, the price of his clothing between what it cost in the morning and what it cost in the afternoon is 18 plus 12. So what do you get? You get 30. That's what you get, 30. So now the Gemara says, Elu mishal tzibur. That means that they both had to be made from the tzibur. In other words, that the money, the Kohen Gadol couldn't donate it himself. It had to come from the group. But if he wants to add on to it, he could add and donate it to the tzibur. But the cost, who pays for it is the tzibur. Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph. So the Gemara asks, my parva. Why is this name of this lishka called parva? So Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef said, parva amugusha. The Rav Yosef said that parva amugusha means that amugusha, Rashi says, mechashef echad bona ushmoy parva. Some sorcerer built this building and his name was Parva. I think what it means is like this. It's very hard in the ancient time to get to get plumbing all the way to the top of that building, right? So it looked like somebody who is somebody who's a sorcerer, a magician made that building. That's why it was called Parva, because it was such a unique thing to have plumbing on top of the building. It was very, very unique. That's why they're called Parva. The Tosfos says a very interesting thing, very has resonance to what's going on today. He said that they called it Parva because there was a guy Parva who dug a tunnel under the ground from that point, so he could sneak into the Kodesh Kodashim and see how the Kohen Gadol does the service. And they found him. And so they called that Lishka the Parva Lishka. That was where the tunnel was built. So it's dealing with tunnels. So that's why it's called Parva. Two reasons, Rashi and Tosfos. Parsus Saden Shabitz. They put up a sheet made out of linen. So the Gemara says, "My Shnov Shabutz." Why did they make the sheet that blocked the view to see the Kohen Gadol going to the mikvah made out of linen? Amar Rav Kahana. It could have been made out of cotton. Amar Rav Kahana Kadeshiaka Shavodas Yom Bidei But. So everybody should recognize today he's not going to wear the gold clothing. He's going to wear linen clothing. I guess there were some people who were not learned at all. They didn't read the Chumash, and they'll see the Kohen walking around with a white clothing. They'll say, "What's going on over here?" So they just made this linen thing something different. So people recognize that he's not going to wear the normal clothing that he normally wears. Now, I want to tell you that the halacha that the morning and the cost should be about 30 mana. 18 plus 12 is a halacha l'Moshe Messina. I think that's why it's not a number that they took out of the hat. Anyway, we learned that the morning linen clothing cost 18, and the afternoon it cost 12. And then the commissioner says the total was 30. So the Gemara asked, the Tana minyana asala shmi'inam. Does the Tana want to teach you how to do math? I know if you add 18, the cost of the clothing in the morning, 12 plus the cost of the clothing in the afternoon, you'll get 30. So why did the Mishnah tell you that the total was 30? So Hakamashmal, and the Mishnah is telling you something interesting. The B'tzia Mahani Loy Navit. You can't make it less than 30. So that's what I'm trying to say, that it must be that the total cost of his clothing had to be 30. Some reason it's maybe a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. But Ibatzim Mahani, Tfei Mahani less lamba. It didn't have to, you didn't have to break it down into 18 to 12. But you could have broke it down to 16 and 14 or something like that. But or 20 and 10. But less than 30 you can't. But the morning one, the morning clothing that he wore in the main service had to be worth more. The afternoon service, by the way, all he put on the white clothing was to just take out the spoon and shovel from the Kodesh Kadoshim that he left it. That was the whole afternoon service. But so therefore it was worth less. The cost of the clothing of the morning was worth more. So the Gemara says, the Kuliyama Miyas the Shachar Avdifa. Everybody agrees that the morning clothing that he wore in the morning should cost more. So the Gemara asks Manolan, how do I know that idea? Amar Rav Huna b'rei de Rav Ilai. Rav Huna said in the son of Rav Ilai, Amakra, it says bad, 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 mufcha b'bad. 4 times in the pasuk it says the word bad. So I just pointed out, here is the pasuk, and I circle. Ksoines bad kodesh yilbash. You should put on linen clothing. Umichne say bad, the pants of linen. Yeh basari. Vavne bad yachgar. Umitznefes bad yitznek, put a linen hat, a gargle of linen. These are the linen clothing. So why does it say 4 times in the pasuk bad? So one or two of them tells you that it should be linen, and the other 2 is trying to stress that it should be the best and finest linen in the world. And this applies in the morning. So that's why the Gemara darshans that in the morning, the mufcha babad, the more expensive one, the more expensive linen should be in the morning, not in the afternoon. So now the Gemara asks, Meisvei, let's go to Lamed Heil Mucheni. Meisvei, Wolafshu Bogadom Acherim. The pasuk says in Yecheskel that if you look in Yecheskel, is a Navi, and there it also describes some of the things that it says in the Chumash. And it describes that you put on that in the afternoon. It describes the service of the Kohen Gadol's Yom Kippur in Yecheskel, basically, right? It's the pasuk in Yecheskel, and it describes in the afternoon that the Kohen Gadol puts on begodim acherim v'lo yikatru b'bigdeihem, and he puts on other clothing, which means other clothing, a different set of linen clothing for the afternoon. That's what the Gemara says. And then when he goes home, don't wear that clothing. That's what the pasuk says. But it says in the afternoon you put on other clothing. My love, doesn't the pasuk in Yecheskel mean acherim? He puts on other clothing in the afternoon, other linen clothing, but chashuvim mehem. They should be more expensive than the ones in the morning. That's what the Gemara is thinking now. Maybe that's what the pasuk in Yecheskel means. Because again, more logically, you would assume you wear more expensive one in the afternoon because you're moving up in Kedusha. Generally, you're going step by step in Kedusha. You don't drop down. So the answer is loy, not so. Acherim. You take other clothing, pechusimem, that are worth less than the ones in the morning. Because at the end of the day, the service that you're doing in the afternoon is a very simple service. In fact, it has not really a tzibur service. It's just taking out the shovel and the spoon that you left into Kodesh Kadoshim, that you left them in the morning. Therefore, the value of the clothing that you wore in the afternoon has to be less. But again, there's a law, a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, that you have to wear 2 sets of clothing. It's not the same linen clothing. You have to wear 2 sets, and the value of the afternoon should be worth less. Tanu, we learned in the Brisa. Rav Huna bar Yehuda. Rav Huna bar Yehuda said, "V'amri another say Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda said this following statement: Acha shekolsa avodas tzibur. After the day service of Yom Kippur, Kohen she'asasoi la'imoi, his mother made him a kesonis, the Kohen Gadol's mother made him a shirt, loifsha, he could put it on, v'oivid ba avodas yachad. He can do the service of the afternoon, which is basically by himself, nothing to do with the tzibur, just taking out the spoon and the shovel. Ulevad, sheyim sereno letzibur. That we have to make sure that if the mother is the one that's making the afternoon clothing, she has to donate it to the tzibur. She can't say, "Oh, it's mine and I'm keeping it." The Kohen Gadol had a nice mother who made him the linen clothing for the afternoon, but she cannot say this is private property. She had to give it over to the tzibur. So the Gemara says, Pshita, certainly, what's the chiddush of this teaching? If someone wants to donate it to the tzibur, so if the mother wants to make it and donate it to the tzibur, why should I say that should be something wrong with that? That you need to teach me that the mother is allowed to do that. So the Gemara says, Mahu, the same I would have thought, maybe the mother is not going to give it over with the full heart. Maybe, she's going to say, I worked so hard to make this clothing, I'm not giving it over to the communal. So the Pamash Malan, that we allow her to make it, and we trust that she's going to donate it to the tzibur, because it's very important that the Kohen Gadol has to wear clothing that comes from the tzibur, not personal, doesn't belong to anybody privately. Now the Gemara says, Amru Olav Arab Shmuel Bar Pabi. The people that it says about Rab Shmuel Bar Pabi, his mother made him mana. His mother made him a shirt of 100 mana, the lavsha, and he put it up. So his mother made him in a very expensive shirt for the afternoon service. He did the service by himself in the afternoon. But we know for a fact that his mother donated it to the tzibur. Amru Olav al Rab Loza ben Charsom. They said about Rab Loza ben Charsom. Rab Loza ben Charsom is considered the most wealthiest of all the Tanoim, and he lives in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, and he was a Kohen Gadol. So he was a very wealthy person, and he was a Kohen Gadol and a Tana, a very holy person. His mother made him a shirt, Mishtei Riboy, which was worth 20,000 mana. So $1 million shirt. And it was so fine that the Kahanim did not want him to put it on. Why? Because it looked see-through. It was so made of such fine linen that you looked at it and it looked like he was standing naked. So it was very expensive, and his mother made it for him, but they didn't want him to wear it. So the Gemara asks, how is it possible for them to see it? Each strand of the linen garment was made of 6 strands. So it was very, very thick. And it was very thick. How is it possible to have been see-through? So the Gemara says, Amar Abaye, that's not Amar Abaye, it's very simple. When you put wine in a thick glass is see-through. No matter how thick the glass is, you can make glass very see-through. So although each strand was 6 strands, but the silk, the linen was so fine that when you put it all together, even though it was $1 million to make it, it was see-through, and the Kahanim did not feel comfortable, Rabbi Loza ben Charsom, to wear it. I don't know what his mother was thinking, but again, a lot of these Tanoim did not have mothers that were Talmidei Chachamim or learned people. They were more modern. Anyway, Tanu Rabbanim, and this is why this is such an important. This is a very important daf for right before Shavuos. Tanu Rabbanim, Ani Ashi V'Rasha. When a poor person, a wealthy person, or an evil person, a person who's bezana, who did a lot of adultery in his life, ba'il l'dayim, that will come up to Shemayim after 120, and they will ask him the question. The heavenly tribunal. So he'll come to the judgment. La'ani, for the poorest person, they will ask him, why weren't you busy in Torah? Why weren't you busy in Torah? If the Ani will say, if I was poor, I was so busy about my parnasa. They said to him, were you more poor than Hillel? Hillel was a wood chopper, and he lived in this time again of the second Beis Hamikdash, and nobody was poorer than Hillel. I mean, from all Jewish people. Amru Olav al Hillel Hazakin. They said about Hillel Hazakin, every single day he would work and make a living. Betrapik. He made a trapik. I don't know, a half a mana, or something like that. And you can see what things cost. Half the money he made, he would give it to the watchman of the Beis Medrash. Apparently, they had security at the base of Medrash. Maybe it was I don't know. They needed protection, so he had to pay to get into the base of Medrash. The chetzia in half and half of it he would send to his wife to support his household. How he allowed to give half to learning? You're not supposed to give more than 20%. Giving 10% to 20% to tzedakah is giving it to a charity. Here, for your own Talmud Torah, you're allowed to give up to half of your money to Talmud Torah, for tuition. One time, Hillel went to work and he didn't have enough. He didn't make any. There were no customers. And the watchman of the base medrash did not allow him to come into the base medrash. Allah, he went up benitla and he hung himself. He went up benitla and he suspended himself. The Yoshev al piha ruba, and he was sitting at the skylight of the building, of the base medrash building. So we can hear the Kabbalah words of the Rebbeim Shmaya and Avtalim. They were the teachers at that time. Amru, they said, it was Friday afternoon. Now they would give shiur on Friday night after 12. There wasn't so this was a shiur, a lecture going on Friday night. And so Friday night, Hillel goes up to that roof, and it was a winter time. So usually it tells you it's Friday night because it's much colder on Friday night than any other day. Al Pi Kabbalah, it's a cold night and it's winter. And Hillel is on that roof, on the glass. Nobody could see him because it's dark outside. The Yard Olav Shelag Min Hashemayim. And snow came from heaven. Now, obviously, snow comes from heaven. I'll explain you that in a second. Snow comes down on Hillel. When dawn came, and it's almost sunrise. Amar Shmaya Avtalion. So Shmaya says to Avtalion, Avtalion, my brother. Every day we see the light coming in from the skylight. And today we see it's dark. Maybe it's a cloudy day. They looked up and they looked closely. They see the shape of a human being on the roof, on the skylight. They went up. They found on him 3 amas of snow on top. So 6 feet of snow is on him. Now one can assume that Hillel is dead, but that's why the Gemara says that they recognize that Hillel is something unique, and this is not a snow that's going to kill him. So Paraku, on Shabbos, they removed the snow off him, they dug him out, V'chitzu, and they washed him, V'sikuhu, and they smeared him with oil, V'yeshivu Keneged Hamdura, and they put him next to the fire. Amru, they said, Ra'uzel l'chal of Shabbos. This person is worthy to desecrate the Shabbos, because normally you could assume the guy is dead, so you're not allowed to l'chal Shabbos to dig somebody out, because you could assume that there's 6 feet of snow on top of him, he's dead. But they saw that they felt that he was such a special person, there was a good chance that he survived this avalanche and he was still alive. Very special Gemara. So back into the Gemara. So when they come to heaven, they're going to ask you, why didn't you learn Torah? So you can say, I was too busy making a living. They'll say, were you poorer than Hillel? And they tell you the whole story about Hillel. So you can say to them, I'm not Hillel, but they'll tell you, we hold you to a high standard. Every person has the ability to become like Hillel, or has that capability to be Hillel in his own way. So they're going to hold you to that standard. Next, Osher, if you're so wealthy, they'll tell you, why didn't you busy yourself in Torah? And basically, that's the first question they're going to ask you, because when you learn Torah, Torah brings to Amunah, faith, and that's the whole essence, and that's the whole faith and gratitude. Basically, that's what it is, and therefore that's the whole essence of life, and that's why we're sent here. So they're going to ask you, why didn't you learn Torah? You can say I was so wealthy, and I was very busy with my wealth. They'll say, were you wealthy than Rab Lazar? Like we learned before, Rab Lazar ben Charsam, his mother made him a $2 million cloak when he was a Kohen Gadol. Rab Lazar ben Charsam. They said about Rab Lazar ben Charsam, That means how wealthy was he? Sheniach loy aviv. His father Charsim was probably a developer. His father Charsim, and he left him elef ayares by Yabashi. Left him 1,000 cities on dry land. Uknegdam, and to correspond that elef sfinas b'yam. He left him 1,000 ships at sea. Maybe he was in the cruise industry. I don't know idea. So he was very, very wealthy. And every single day, this Rab Lazar will take noichel kamach. He would take a jug of flour, al kaseifa on his shoulder. Umahalech me'ir le'ir would go from city to city, Medina to Medina, from country to country, limud Torah. He couldn't learn in one place. He had to go from place to place to find his Rebbe to learn from and move on. So he was a nomad. Pamachas, one time, matzu avodav. He ended up in a city that belonged to his father, that really belongs to himself. V'asu by Angaria. They made him pay the tax of the city. Basically, they put him to work. If you're here, you have to help out. And he actually owns that city. Amalahan, he said to them, Hanichuni, let me off. I'm not supposed to pay the tax. I'm going to learn Torah. So Amrullah, the people who own the place, or running the place, the governors, Chaye Rab Lazar ben Chacham, we swear in the life of Rab Lazar ben Chacham, of the owner of this property, Sheim Anichan, we're not letting you go learn without paying your due share. Now he didn't even debate them and say, I'm the boss. What are you making me work? But he didn't debate them, maybe not to waste time from Torah. He never went and saw any one of his properties. So let's say he owned 1,000 cities and 1,000 ships. He never went on one. It was, he knew probably he had it all set up and delegated to people to oversee it, but he never walked in there to view it himself. He would sit and learn Torah all day and all night, and he's one of the Tanoim that you see in the Mishnah, Rab Lazar Mecharsam. So the Gemara tells you that if you come up to Shemayim and say, I was so busy, I was so busy with my work because I was wealthy and had possessions, they tell you couldn't have been more wealthier than Rab Lazar Mecharsam, and you held to that standard. Russia, a person who's adulterer, they say, why didn't you learn Torah? And that would have helped you. That would have helped you overcome your Yetzer Hara. Omar, he'll say, no, you see, I was good looking, the Torah beyitzri, and my imagination disturbed me. So I was, that's how I became an adulterer. They will tell him, were you more handsomer than Yosef? They say about Yosef at Tzaddik in the Chumash. Every day, the wife of Petipa was trying to seduce him with words. And first she says, the clothing that she put up in the morning, she didn't put up in the evening. So she constantly changed her clothing. The one that she wore the night before, she didn't change it in the morning. I know many women that do that today. That she didn't wear the same clothing around her. She constantly kept changing her clothing. Amr Lai, she said to Yosef, Hisham Ali, come, let's do it. Amr La, laugh, I cannot do it with you. Amr Lai, so she says, and she's the boss. I'm going to put you in prison. Amr Lai, Hashem Mati Asurim. Hashem releases prisoners, so I'm not scared. She says to him, I will crush your height. In other words, I will whip you. Hashem, so Yosef answered, Hashem zokev kifufim. Hashem straightens the bend. So even if you're going to crush me, so I can look at you, I'm keeping my head up high, and if you do that, I trust that Hashem will straighten my bent back. So then she says, Hareini mesameh es einecho, I will blind your eyes. He said, Hashem pokech ivrim. Hashem gives sight to the blind. So again, I'm not afraid of you. Nosnulay elef kikri kesef. So she gave him 1,000 talents of silver, l'shmayaleh, that he can have relations with her, lishka vessel, just to lie down next to her, liyasem, just to be with her, keep her company. He did not want to listen to her. Why? Because lishka vessel, he'll lie with her ba'olam hazeh, liyas ima, to be with her la'olam haba and olam haba, because when an adulterer who's mizana and with the intention to do an aveira, somebody that's not his wife. So that not only is an Aveir in Olam Hazeh, but that stays with you in Olam Haba forever and ever. So Nimsa concludes the Gemara. Hillel, when you come up to heaven, Hillel mechayev esaniyim. Hillel will make poor people guilty because you couldn't say that you were poorer than Hillel. Rabbi Lazar ben Charsim mechayev esashirim. Rabbi Lazar will make guilty those wealthy people who claim they didn't learn Torah because they were wealthy. Rabbi Lazar ben Charsim will prove them wrong. Yosef mechayev esarshon. Yosef will make the Rishonim, the adulterers, guilty because you couldn't have been more handsomer than Yosef. You couldn't have been faced a larger test than Yosef with the Ashes Potiphar, and yet Yosef prevailed. So you'll be held responsible for no matter what. And that's why you say in davening, Rabbois machshavos belev ish va'atzas Hashem he sokum. That's what you say. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. Rabbois machshavos belev ish. People have a lot of thoughts that they will get away when they come to the heavenly tribunal after 120. Va'atzas Hashem, of the idea of Hashem is he sokim, that will stand. He is Rashi Tevis, Hillel, Yosef, and Elazar. So Hillel, Yosef, and Elazar is the way Hashem will be able to prove that you were capable to overcome the challenges of life that Hashem sent you, no matter where you are. Beautiful Gemara.
Yeah, thank you.
Shavuos.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very, very appropriate. Have a wonderful Shavuos and Freiliche Yontiv, everybody.
Amen. Thank you. Are you in Sharif tonight or you're not?
Yes, I'm be in Shari.
Okay.
I'm not staying up a whole night. I can't do it.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah. All right.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Have a good Yontif.
Yontiv.